I think we're going to go ahead and get started. People can still sign in as the meeting is open. Hello and good evening to everybody. It's exciting to see some familiar names attending this webinar tonight. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Randy Mendez, and I'm the Director of College Initiatives for Arapahoe County Early Childhood Council. We have a few housekeeping notes that we wanted to share with everybody, so I'm going to go ahead and let Mary Ingleby share those.
Okay. The first thing is we'll be doing attendance at the very end. So there'll be a link in the chat box for you to click on. It will give you your name, your address, and about 3 questions about tonight's discussion, and then that'll help us get your certificates to you at the end. Okay.
Thank you, Mary. I'd also like to share that we do have a Q&A box or chat box that will be monitored by one of our QI coaches. So after every panelist has answered their question, we're going to go ahead and allow 5 minutes for any additional questions that you all may have that pertains to that specific question. I'd just like to thank all of you for attending ACEC's virtual panel webinar, Reach for a Rating. We're going to go ahead and begin with introductions from our lovely panelists and our host tonight. Go ahead, we'll begin with Bethany Busybee.
Hi, my name is Joyce Bertram, and I'm from Bethany Busybee, which is in Centennial. We serve children from 2.5 to 6 years old, and we have about 100 children in our program.
Good evening, ladies. I'm Meredith Haun. I am a lead teacher at Bethany Busybee Preschool. I work with the 4 and 5 classroom, and I'm also an assistant director.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Cleveland. I run a licensed family childcare home. I have an experienced license. I have 9 full-time children, ranging from a baby on up to currently age 7.
Hi, I'm Kathy Lopez. I'm director of H&H Early Learning Center in Littleton, Colorado.
Hi, I'm Nicole Lopez. I also work at H&H. I'm the assistant director. We have infants from 6 weeks old up to school agers 12 years of age.
Hi, my name is Steph Olson. I'm co-owner and co-educator at Kids Castle. We're a licensed large family childcare, and we're also early Head Start community partners through Early Learning Ventures. And we just received our 2nd Colorado Shines Level 5.
Hi, I am Cherise Robart, and I am with Children's Playland and Creative Infinity in Aurora, 2 large centers, and we just went through the rating at Creative Infinity and got level 5, and then we are currently going through the rating at Children's Playland, so we won't find out our level until the end of February there.
Hi, I'm Holly Romero, and I'm the Program Support and Professional Development Coordinator for the Council.
Hi, I'm Shaylee. I'm an early learning consultant as well at ACECC, and I will be monitoring the chat box and hopefully getting to all your questions.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Reka Cachat, and I am one of the early learning consultants with the Council.
Hi, I'm Rohana from A+ Learning Center, and we are in the process of getting our 2nd rating in March.
Okay. And I'm Mary Ingleby. I'm a early learning consultant at the council as well, but I focus on family childcare homes mostly.
Okay, I'm sorry. Everybody should be muted as an attendee. If you're not, please let me know and I will go ahead and get you muted. Sorry, Rahana, but thank you for sharing your information. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start with our first question of the evening. Bethany Busybee, can you please tell us what were some of your successes you experienced before, during, or after your virtual rating?
So we started the rating process in 2009. So we started with a 3, we went to a 4, and just this past year, with our virtual rating, we received a 5. So we learned a lot along the way, and the virtual rating, we didn't anticipate. We expected that we would be going through the regular rating process in April, but then because of COVID, the plans shifted. So it was a different experience, and we just learned that we needed to be really good at photography, and we needed to be really good at some of the video kinds of things that could tell about our program. It was a very different process, but it was a good process. It was one that we controlled because we could say, well, today is a beautiful sunny day. We'll go out and video the playground. So there were some great features about that. Meredith really took charge of that process for us. So I think she can give you a lot more detail about how that process went as a virtual rating and was different.
Do you want me to share some of that now, or do you want me to answer that later on in the tips question, Randy?
You can go ahead and hold off. That's fine.
All right, that's good.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to Jennifer Cleveland.
All right. So, gosh, I have a lot of successes with this process. I guess I'll start backwards. I have received a level 5 virtually, and prior to that, I received a level 5 traditionally, I guess, rating. And but some of the successes I saw in my family home childcare, the first is with my setup, my daycare home childcare setup. With the help of my coach, Mary, we transformed my very open room with all the toys outside into areas like blocks, reading, drama. And I know probably centers, this sounds like, well, logically, that's of course what you do. For some of us home providers, that isn't necessarily second nature. So the success I experienced with that was immediately the children played differently in those spaces and really just benefited from having the space set up that way. Another success I had was just streamlining my procedures. So things like hand washing and sanitizing, just because I had to make sure each child did the proper way. We streamlined it, and so things were more efficient and just better, save time, I guess, and executed better. The third thing I have was just doing parent-teacher conferences consistently. Again, as a family provider, I see each and every family every day, drop off and pick up. It's just me. So we have conversations every day about their child's daily progress and stuff like that. But having formal parent-teacher conferences really just opened up that door for me to have deeper conversations with the parents, setting goals, talk about procedures. I mean, just goals for their children. And then I also did assessments. So that really helped just step up my level of, I don't want to say service that I was providing. The other success I had is with gardening. I am definitely not a green thumb, and I never would have taken that on had it not been part of the Carlshan's rating. And so the very first year I had a little pot and I planted 50 million things in this little pot and they all died. But each year I've gotten better and better and better. And I have this 7-year-old has been with me for all along, and she's like so excited how much better we are gardening now. So it's just been a positive experience that I would have never tried had not going through the rating.
Thank you, Jennifer. H&H?
I want to say, like, before and during, I think some of the greatest successes that we had was the knowledge that we learned going through the process. We're a newer center, and Nicole and I and 10 of us actually went to this center all at one time, 4 months after it opened. So we've been doing the rating probably about close to a year and a half. And so nothing basically was in place when we went. And I think that's one of the biggest successes was just taking the tool, every teacher, the administration, and going page by page. Co-teachers doing other teachers' rooms, like in mock ratings and scoring them. And the same with administration staff going in and doing that. And then having the teachers evaluate their own rooms, and then make checklists off of that. I mean, I think it really empowered the teachers to take, a bigger part in their classrooms.
Thank you, Kathy. I just have a follow-up question with that. You said about a year and a half you were at the center before you went through a rating. Do you feel like that was efficient or appropriate and enough time for you to be prepared for a rating?
I do. I actually think we probably would have done, well, we would have done it last March. March was our rating, and then COVID happened. So we were supposed to go in March. So I think at that point it was probably about 10 months, I think, into it. And yeah, we had amazing support from the council, amazing support from you guys. Anytime we had any questions or unsurety, you guys always answered our questions. So I think it was. The delay in taking actually a little bit longer, I think, was the fact of, COVID, and they stopped all ratings.
Okay, thank you. Steph?
Thanks. It was about 7 years ago that Kids Castle embraced the Colorado Shines system, in particular the Fickers rating tool. And when we decided to take our small business childcare and follow the roadmap that the Fickers assessment tool had, we started to see that we were more credible with our families. We started to see that we were having more positive outcome with growth and development of our children, being prepared for kindergarten readiness. It was amazing what the Colorado Shines system has done for Kids Castle. And when we went through the first time, we got our level 5, and we scored in the mid 6s. And now when we did it the virtual way, so we did it in person with an assessor on site, and then now we did it virtually, and we scored a 6.96 out of 7. And so we're just absolutely ecstatic. And we owe a lot of our quality to not just the Fickers tool and the Colorado Shines people for what they've put together, and they maintain it. We also owe a lot to the Arapahoe Council coaches. Because when we come across a barrier, they're right there because they go to the trainings and they can help me through obstacles. Or if I am having a challenge, I just feel that I can handle anything. But I just want to say hats off to Clayton Learning, because the virtual experience, my roadmap was right there. I didn't have any concerns. And to Mary, when I called her, she's like, Steph, you can do this. She gave me the confidence, and we just did it.
Thank you, Steph. Cherise?
Okay, so with us, especially with Children's Playland, we, like Steph was saying, we've been on this road for 7 years now. When we very first took over Children's Playland, we took it over in February, and in March we rated. And so it was super quick, and it was crazy, and it was a huge learning curve. And there wasn't a lot of time to get everything done. And so we went through the whole rating process, and we scored a 2. And then we went through and we rated again, and we improved a little bit more, and we scored a 3. And so it was really, just our goal this time to get that 4. That was really, just kind of going up the steps a little bit more. But the council has been with us the whole entire way. And going into this rating that we were just about to do, we were actually set to rate on the Itters and Eckers 3 in November. And that whole thing changed with COVID. And poor Shaylee had to ride the rapids with us on it, because she was kind of switching between rating on the Itters and Eckers R with most of her sites, and then we were saying, no, we want to prepare for the Itters and Eckers 3. And so we kind of had to shift gears in the middle of that, and it was great to have the council support. I will say, with specifically the virtual rating process, it has been kind of nice to be back on the Itters and Eckers R, especially because we were really, really training on a lot of the Itters and Eckers 3 stuff, and it kind of just went hand in hand, but a lot more of it was more able to be documented in the way for the virtual rating. And so the successes that we had along the way, obviously, working with the teachers, and they've improved an immense amount. And it's so exciting to see, how much they really learn and grow throughout the process. Also, it was definitely something that when we were going through the initial process of starting to do the rating, and we were on the phone and through emails with Clayton, a lot of those support documents that they had, just following them really just set it in place for us. We didn't have to do anything. We didn't have to reinvent the wheel. We just had to go down the list and check the items off. And so it was really, really nice that we had all of that stuff for us just ready to go. And if we had any questions, we could reach out to Shaylee. She was available through Thanksgiving and Christmas. And I feel like I was on the phone and through emails with her throughout the whole entire time. So that was a huge success for us. I would say also kind of focusing on each element as it comes. So that was another big thing, not necessarily worrying about the interviews when you're doing your videos, and not worrying about documentation. That was just us personally, but that really helped me as well.
Thank you, Cherise. That was a lot of great information for everybody. And now we're going to go to the second question, which is the opposite of any successes. Can everybody please highlight some of the challenges that you experienced before, during, or after your virtual rating?
I would share that because we've gone through the rating before, we didn't lose staff this time, but the first times we went through, it was a challenge for people to change, especially if they've been working in the field for a long time and they're not accustomed to some of the things that you're being asked to do in Colorado Shines. I feel like it's such a great tool to direct us to improve. And so we really saw what you saw too, that we were making changes that were good, that were effective for the children, that were helpful to parents. But it always is a little stressful for the teachers. I think this time through was maybe a little bit less stressful because we had more control over the virtual rating than we did the ratings that the council helped us through before, where we were actually being rated sometime during the month, but we didn't know when during the month. We too felt so strongly that we couldn't have gone down this road without having the support of the council. It was just critical to us to have someone that could explain what they were looking for. And in fact, for us, when we went through the rating this time, we were a few points short of a 5. And they said, well, actually, Randy said, you should make some of these things known that you're doing, that you didn't do a great job of videotaping. So that was huge for us and for our success.
Thank you, Joyce.
So I'm going to kind of piggyback from what Joyce just shared about the challenges. So one of them is just the challenge of time, of being able to find that time to set it aside to address the things that need to be addressed. So if you're doing the virtual environmental rating scale, you can make your videos, but you cannot make videos with children in them. So luckily for us, we're a part-day program. We just scheduled doing everything in the afternoon. But if you have a center where you serve children all day long, you're going to have to get creative with how and when you put those videos together. The other piece with the time was the new platform. So the platform for Colorado Shines and QRIS has recently been updated. So when I uploaded things back in April, it looked one way. And then when we went in just recently to do our resubmissions, it was very different. So to budget in that time of relearning where to go, how to upload things, and making sure things are actually really being submitted, that took some time. And then when I added in additional supplemental documents with the videos, because I knew we weren't going to be able to catch everything in those videos. And again, that took additional time. So just you had to kind of be realistic about how much you can get done when it is a lot of work, but it is definitely worthwhile.
Thank you, Meredith. Jennifer?
Yes, I would say from the get-go, one of the biggest challenges, no lie, is the paperwork. Just creating, gathering, documenting, uploading, just the whole process is a time-consuming process, especially at the first time around. Some of those documents I didn't exist for my family child care, so having to create those. So the second time around, a lot of those, they were already in place. We've been using those documents, and moving forward, it certainly wasn't nearly as bad the second time around once you already created and are used to using those tools. But the second piece of that is definitely, just like Meredith said, is time. It is allow yourself plenty of time to prep for this, especially if it's your first time through. The extra time spent organizing, using your space, trying things out, placing things that didn't work for my kids and my routines and my children. So you have to kind of rearrange and do things different, till you find a rhythm of what works while using the tools and what works for your center, or in my case, my family childcare home. So just, you do have to spend some additional time in the evenings and weekends, and at least I do as a single provider. But it, like Meredith said, it's definitely worth it, but it is challenging. You have to set aside that time and make it a priority.
Thank you.
Something that is also challenging is that you have to be really good at delegating, making sure that you have to trust your team and rely on them, because you cannot do this job or this task by yourself. So, I mean, that's also, you can turn that around and say that it was turned into like a success, and creating that atmosphere of, what can I do to help you? Because I'm definitely going to need your help in return. Another thing as well is definitely plan for more time than what you think you'll need for the documentation, the video uploading, all that stuff, the editing, especially now that a lot of this is virtual. I don't know, I definitely didn't have a lot of experience in video editing. But once you get the hang of it, you can definitely overcome and achieve anything that you put your mind to.
Thank you for that, Nicole.
I was just going to say really quick, Randy, if I could.
Yeah.
There's so many different challenges, but I think one of the biggest challenges was keeping the camera steady and solid. So I would tell everyone to invest in a tripod. They're not that much, but it made a huge difference when you're trying to scan a room or even take pictures, just for the steadiness. So
thank you for that tip.
One of my biggest challenges in doing the virtual rating initially was that I don't like to be on camera. And so the video part was really hard for me. And so I talked to through with Mary and my husband. And so my husband did the recording of me while I did a tour, and I just pretended that my husband was actually my rater, and I was giving my rater a tour of all of our center. And then it really got me going, and I probably overtalked because we ended up sending in 10 short videos. So we made our video shorter, so it didn't feel as much of a laborious task. And so we just went around and we highlighted specific things that we wanted to make sure that our rater didn't see in person this time. A lot of the intentional things that we do within our classroom, like we have recipes from our families in our play kitchen area. And then we talk about how we actually make those in our kitchen with our kids, things like that. And we wanted to point out all the different things that we did during COVID, because we are in a pandemic rating, but we didn't want our kids to lose in the language area or the children's library puppet play. So we actually made stick puppets, you know, and the way that we used now laminated covers of books in place of soft covered books, things like that. And so we just really, really methodically thought about our videos as I was talking to a rater, but then when we then viewed the videos, we really realized how our parents actually view us too, in the high quality areas that we were talking about. And there's a sense of pride because this doesn't come overnight. Kids Castle studied Fickers for an entire year. We had mock ratings. Take it slow. If you're brand new, it's going to be the best adventure you go on. The first couple, months, you might think, why did I even ask for this book? But let me tell you something, as a user, consistently in our daily routine of Fickers and the Colorado Shines rating system, it's unbelievably the best thing that made us the most credible family childcare home in the industry. I just have to tell you, we're firm believers.
Thank you, Steph.
Okay, so as the large center kind of going through this rating, I think I had different expectations of it before we actually started of how long stuff was going to take. So the biggest challenge that I had was really coming to terms with the fact that it wasn't just going to be a 10-minute quick video of my classroom. And so like Steph had said, we did little videos, but the first time that we did a classroom video, it was an hour-long video of me walking around and narrating our whole entire classroom, and I didn't want them to miss anything. And so I went through it piece by piece, and it was so long. And then, we had like a mistake in there, and I had to edit the videos, and it was just a kind of a big amount of mess. And so definitely redoing those long videos was something that I didn't anticipate doing, but obviously we want to showcase the best of the best. And so when Shaylee reviewed the video and said, hey, this isn't quite right, you didn't explain this exactly how you should have, or maybe if you just added a little bit of this, it would kind of portray it a little bit better. Obviously we're listening to that because, we want to get that high rating. And so we were redoing long videos, and, because we're a full day program, it was me and my director, and we were there. I mean, there were nights that we were there until 2:00 in the morning, and there were weekends that we were there all weekend. But at the end of the day, it's 2 months of your life, and then you get this rating for the next 3 years. So definitely worth it. But definitely one of those things that I would say the shorter video is probably a little bit better. Also, uploading the videos took a really long time. We don't have the fastest internet, and so it took a lot longer than what I thought it was going to take. And so it was pretty time consuming, especially because it was on my phone. And so I couldn't just leave it there uploading and, go home or whatever. And so that was something that was a challenge as well. Also, I would say, the most challenging part when you go through a live rating, you have so many different variables. You have 20 kids in a classroom, and every single one of them are going to have, different little quirks that happen during the observation. So it was nice in the fact that it was just the only wild card was the interview. And so that was the one thing that you're like, oh my gosh, I can't control every little bit of it. I can't just redo it. And so that was definitely the most challenging part for us. But we just coached to that quite a bit with our teachers. And it's stuff that they do all the time, but it's different describing a diaper change step by step when you're not actually doing it. So definitely prepare for that. Also, I would say, you know, it's not really an issue right now, but rating in the months of November and December where you don't have all that support, because it's not just the council, and, you know, Shaylee's wonderful and is available even though it's the holidays, but Clayton's not. And so if you have any technical difficulties, you're right at the end of the month, and, you know, that can be an issue. Let's see. I made notes, so I just want to make sure I hit everything. Oh, the Google Drive space. We ran out of Google Drive space, and I just ended up purchasing it because I couldn't get, they said I should be able to get over that somehow, but I wasn't able to do it. So I just paid the $2 and got the extra space. Yep, and then just leaving time at the end for technical difficulties so that your coach can review the videos. So.
Thank you, Cherise. I think we're going to take this time now for some Q&A questions, some questions that were asked. So Shaylee, if you want to go ahead and ask those questions.
Yeah, so there was one question in regards to the Vickers assessment, and where did you find that?
Sure, the Vickers is for family childcare, and you find that through your local council. So we got ours through Mary.
Perfect. And then another one was, how long were your videos that you uploaded for your virtual rating?
So for us, it really depended. If we did all of them at the same time, then it was like an hour. But if we did them individually, we just kind of followed that little sheet and kind of chunked it by the little bolded points on the sheet. And they were anywhere from a minute to 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
Anybody else want to chime in on that?
I was going to say about the same. We did do shorter videos, and that is easier to break it down. And that way also you have, you know, a shorter amount of time to really focus on what you're saying. And then at the end, we did clip them together or stitch them together. So I would say it was about an hour and a half total of recorded video. And some of that wasn't all of us talking, like some of it was room scans and toy scans and such.
Awesome. And then another one is, where do you get the sheets to follow? I'm assuming for the virtual rating on how to do the videos. Those you can find on the Colorado Shines website, or if you go through us, we also can hand it to you from the council. And then another question is, what type of camera did you use for the videos?
We just used the phone. Yeah.
iPhone.
If
I could also add, Miss Shaylee, to when we, you know, received the sheet, I remember we took ours and we went like down the bullet points, but then we also kind of made our own sheet just to kind of do like a checklist to make sure that we're hitting all the points that the raters want to see. So we would go to the side and we would write out what room, what teacher's going to say this, the specific toys that they're going to speak about, the language that they're going to use. So that way it's almost like a script that is written for these videos, because once you get in front of a camera, a lot of times you kind of freeze and it's really hard to speak, even though you know. And we did the same thing that Steph was talking about, where we would say, pretend like you're talking to your best friend, or you're talking to me, or you're giving a tour. Because a lot of times when you go in front of that camera, you're kind of like, you freeze a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for mentioning that, Nicole. So another one is, can I recycle the evidence I used for my previous rating? And Randy, I want to assume that's probably their readiness guide evidence. And for Colorado Shines, I know that their evidence is now 24 months out instead of the regular 12 months.
Yes. So there's also a virtual readiness guide that Clayton has put out. So it's not a whole lot different, but it does have a few different indicators in there for you to upload documentation. So you want to make sure and follow the virtual rating evidence guide.
All right, and I think this is towards Nicole. Is the 1 hour video that you mentioned, Nicole, is it per classroom or just all together?
So it was all together. We had about, I think it was about 50 minutes of introductions for the whole school, because we are a large center, so we included as many teachers as we could. So we did introductions, we did resources, we had 3 classrooms that were rated, and then we did an ending to it. And then on top of that, we had probably 5 or 6 videos of just classroom scans and toy scans. So all together it's about an hour and a half.
Okay, and then for you guys that did your videos, did you include your teachers in the videos or just the directors?
We included the teachers for each classroom that was rated. They did their own videos. Nicole did the taping on it. I think it's hugely important that the teachers are doing their rooms. Especially, I mean, they would be doing it if the raters were in person. So we thought it was important for them to do their classrooms. So, and it was kind of funny because then we had, you know, some of the classrooms that weren't chosen and those teachers wanted to be a part of it. So they did like our resource videos, like our breastfeeding room. So the other teachers got to do videos as well. So it was really fun.
Awesome. This one is, I believe we have 2 more.
Okay.
This one pertains to virtual coaching visits. Maybe you guys, the panelists, can talk a little bit more about what your virtual coaching visits with your coach through ACCC was like.
I think that really depends on what you need. I feel like every single coaching visit with Shaylee was different. It was whatever we were needing. It was, you know, did she need to talk to one of our teachers about something? Was she discussing something with me about evidence? Did I have questions to ask? I feel like with the virtual, it was definitely different because you're not in person and you're not having that tactile, like here's a paper for you and here's something that we can talk about. But really it was honestly whatever I needed. And it was all the time, whether it was an email or a Zoom call or just a phone call. So that's what it was like for me, but I feel like that's really personal as far as what each person would have.
Jennifer, will you share a little bit about your experience with coaching during COVID?
Yes. Oh. There we go.
There you go.
Brain fart with the mute unmute. Yes, it was obviously just what I mean, a little bit just like Cherise said, just what I needed. Obviously we go over, you know, where are we at? You know, is this talk about documentation? Then we talk about documentation, you know. We kind of were just piggyback after Mary took fantastic notes, and she would be following up. Okay, last time you told me you'd be working on your budget. Have you done that? You know, have you done this? And looking ahead. So she really kept me online or in line about what, as far as paperwork and documentation and moving forward, and just great motivation, keeping me on track. And then of course, once we got to the videoing, you know, aspect of it was the last part. She reviewed some of my videos. Not all of them, because I think that would be a lot, but we went over and just kind of, she helped me do that. So it was a fantastic experience. I mean, obviously in person would be better, but that's not the world we live in right now. So it's the next best thing.
Thank you.
I feel like she lucked out, Jennifer, because Shaylee had to watch all my videos. Like hours and hours of videos. She watched all of them and let me know.
You need, Cherise.
I do want to comment one more thing though, is that Shaylee had the great idea of doing some mock interviews over Zoom, and that was a great thing for my teachers to be able to experience. So that was something that was different with the virtual.
I just want to chime in too that Mary made the virtual experience very easy for us because she asked us, how would you like to coach? Sometimes we were coaching via emails when I was getting ready to upload my documentation. Other times I'm like, Mary, I just need you to see my exploration station. I want to make sure that I'm hitting all the indicators that I need for my nature and science. And then, I mean, we even took our computer outside. I'm like, okay, Mary, I need you to take a look at this. I just had a new deck installed and I want to make sure, you know, that everything, you know, just really flows with the way that we have it designed. So absolutely hats off again to Mary and the council, because I know that they took extra steps to make sure that they knew the virtual process. So any barriers we had, they knocked them down right away.
Thank you.
Awesome. So there's just one more, Randy. Were the interviews with teachers similar to previous interviews?
Joyce and Meredith, would you like to answer that question?
We only had one of our teachers participate in the interviews, and it was a long interview. They were very pleasant to deal with. They laughed when the teacher had something to share that was funny, and we just felt like that was such a wonderful way for us to be able to share the classroom, because we have a great time in the classroom with the children, and the teacher, Mrs. McGowan, did a fantastic job of describing what she did at each of the centers. And the rater in the virtual interview was actually delightful.
Okay. Anybody else have anything to say about the interview process?
I'll say something. So, you know, traditionally when you go through an environmental rating, you don't know when they're going to come. You just know that they're going to come sometime during the month. So doing it virtually, we kind of knew ahead of time, hey, we're going to be ready for our interview at 2 o'clock on Tuesday. And that allowed a little bit of some prep time, a little bit of, you know, confidence building, and just the whole feel of it was a little bit different this round because we knew it was coming. Whereas before, yeah, every day for that whole month, you were like, is today the day? Is today the day? And so that was alleviated by having an actual appointment and doing it that way. So I think that's a benefit.
I wanted to say, Randy, one thing that was a little bit different with the virtual interviews as opposed to in person. When they did ours, our coach had told us, you know, if you get everything that's in their documentation, if you mark everything off that checklist and show it in the documentation through videos or photos, it will cut down on the interview time. And they said most interviews were taking an hour to an hour and 15 minutes. And my teachers ended up going all about 30, 35 minutes. So, which I think is nice because then the documentation was there. So I think if you go through that checklist, it'll make it a little easier for your teacher interviews.
Thank you.
And
sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna just say that the interviews, like as far as like preparing for them and then being like the ones from before, I would say the fact that they follow what questions are in the itters and eckers for the most part. I think there was a couple questions that my teachers were kind of like, oh, I don't really know what they mean because we hadn't really gone through those questions. But going through those questions on each of the indicators that are at the end of the notes to just ask your teachers, that was a lot of the questions. I would say 95% of the questions were already in there. They might have been phrased a little bit differently, but it's really something that you can definitely prepare for sure.
Okay, thank you for all that wonderful information about the interviews. We're going to move on to our third question of the evening. What might be some advice, tips, or insider scoop you can offer to the group tonight? I know several of you have mentioned a few things, but if you can add on top of that, we'd like to hear all of that information.
I would like to just encourage you that it's a lot of work, but the benefits are so significant. We have found, I remember when we started and we didn't have picture labels on all of our shelves for the items that we had. And that we thought, that's such a lot of work. Do you really think it's going to make any difference? And it's a huge process, but it was such a benefit to the children because they could clean up. They knew exactly where things went. And once the teachers saw that, they were encouraged and felt like the time they'd invested was really worthwhile. So I think you'll see that all the way through as you go farther with this process, that there's so much payoff from the work that you will do in this Colorado Shines. Meredith has all the really great insider scoops, so I'm going to let her tell you.
Thank you, Joyce. So let me just say, first off, I was a little nervous about the technology piece, to be quite honest. And so we had to figure out, okay, we have little iPads that we use. And I had to figure out, okay, if I'm going to upload that into the Google Drive to share the videos, how do I go about that? And so just download the Google Drive app onto whatever device you're using to make your recordings. So have that, make sure you have enough storage, because that's another thing that you need to make sure you have. We only made 3 videos. We kept them all under 10 minutes because it does take longer for those to upload. And so work in a team. I videoed Joyce giving a tour of the entrance and how a parent and a family would enter the school and where would you go for certain resources, where the offices are, all of those kinds of things. And then I made a video of Mrs. McGowan giving a tour of her classroom. And then another person videoed me giving the tour of our playground. So that way there was more than one face going on with the videos. And then I went ahead and I made supplemental documents for several things. So what I did is I went through the classroom, I went through the playground, and I took photographs with my iPad, and I took photographs of all the materials. So that way you could literally see all of the books and the titles and all of the things. And then I inserted those photographs into a Word document, and I labeled every single photograph with what that was and where it was. And I basically did a whole little map for the playground, and I also did for the cleaning supplies and those kinds of things that were necessary. And I worked in my Word document. And then once we felt like we had all of the information, everything that we wanted in there, then we saved it as a PDF, and the PDF is what we uploaded. So that really kind of figuring out that process really helped, because I think it provided details that the raters could look at without making my videos so long that it took, I've ran into issues where videos are so big that you're like, well, it's been a day and it hasn't uploaded. So there's that piece there. And then again, just working as a team, I think it's really important to feel like that the workload is shared. So that way not one person is getting overburdened with the items that need to be taken care of. And then just really encourage staff, encourage one another, because I know every once in a while we get to that point of, well, why are we doing all this? And it's, is it really worthwhile? But as Joyce described just earlier, it really is worth it. It really is worthwhile. And when I think about what our Busy Bee environment was like when we first went through our first rating back in 2009, and the kind of reflection we had to go through and the kind of improvements that we had to go through, it's been an amazing journey, and it's been a great journey. And I'm proud to be able to say that we've pursued it and we've achieved growth every time. So just keep encouraging each other.
So my advice is just to, especially to first head through, break it down. Take we use Vickers, but whatever book you use, break it down, read a section each month. I mean, the first time I went through, I had it broken down over maybe even several months, like 3 or 4 months. just taking each section, reading through the book, and being familiarized with it. Also the same with your materials. Maybe 1 week or 2 weeks you work on the block area or your science area or your books, and just breaking it down like that so it doesn't seem so overwhelming. And then, you know, when you leave each section, you've thoroughly done that section, as well as health and safety. So, you know, to focus on diapering until you feel like you've gotten that procedure down the right way and very thoroughly, and hand washing. Just breaking it all down was the best way for me to get through all the information. My second advice is to use all your resources. Clayton has tons of resources. Your coach has resources, handouts. I was even part of a Facebook group. Other providers that you know are going through that. Your counsel can hook you up with other people that you can, you know, as you're going through it together, share the experience, give each other advice, help each other out. And then the third thing, my advice is just believe in the process. I think we've all heard that, yes, it's challenging, but just believing in the process that you will come out a better provider. You're going to come out, your children are going to benefit from this, and your families that you serve are going to come out better for this. I just truly believe the process has made me grow as a provider. I'm just all around. It's been a journey for sure. But I just believed in the whole process. Everything, that there's a reason for everything, even if you don't believe in every nitpicky little detail of the process, know that there's a reason for everything. And in the end, you will come out hopefully with your goal in mind, with your rating. And then of course, just you'll grow as a person and as a provider.
Thank you, Jennifer. I just want to mention that I appreciate that all of our panelists have embraced this process and had made it their rating. Like, it's their program, it's their rating. These are the successes, these are the tips, these are the quality improvements that we want to make as a program. So I just want to thank you for embracing that process.
Thanks, Randy. So I was thinking about how to break this down for tips. And I had this huge list. And I was like, you know, that's probably gonna take up the entire time. So I broke it down into 3 smaller things. One, enjoy the opportunity to work on teamwork and also that self-development piece. Because if you allow that, you will grow during this process. You know, it does seem daunting and overwhelming, but there's so much room for growth. Employer resources, your coach, EQ and Pyramid Plus teachers, nurse consultants, and also the EC community. Because, you know, we're women, let's empower women. So definitely lean into that. There are so many resources that helped us through this process. 2, create an atmosphere where asking for help is like the norm, you know, and that was something that I had to do with my self-reflecting, because I was really trying to be a go-getter and do all this. And I'm like, well, that's not what this process is even really about. You know, it's about the quality of the school. And so that includes all your teachers. So having them help, having them understand the book, how to run the business, how to be what this quality is. So that was really big. And then lastly, invest in self-care, because this is a really big process. So making sure that you're eating fruit and drinking some water and taking those days off when you need it, and acknowledging yourself, but then also acknowledging that you're extremely valuable to the ECE community. You know, we all are. So just having that in your head, like, I am a valuable member of this society. And then that translates to the kids that, you know, we're all bringing up.
Thank you, Nicole. I think Steph, yeah, there you go.
Okay. I'm with Jennifer in that if you're new to the Vickers assessment tool, take it slow. Pick out one area that maybe you feel that you need to improve in the most, or maybe an area that you really think you're doing really well at. whichever one it might be, and then go ahead and follow the guidelines in the book and sit back and enjoy and see how your kids react. How do the kids react to the changes and the suggestions in the tool? And how do you react as a teacher? Where are you growing? And also the most important thing is allow yourself to make mistakes, because you know what, you may set something up and it's just not working for some reason and you don't know why. It's okay. Go ahead and change it, because if you make it your own, you're going to keep it as part of your daily routine. And you're just not going to set up your classroom so that you can have an assessment and get your score. The Colorado shines, in our opinion, at Kids Castle. Like I said, it's part of our small business model. And that's why we maintain high quality, because we've embraced it and we love what we do. And then you get the benefit of not only the parents being happy, but your children are growing and they're ready for kindergarten. So my best advice is do what's right for you, do what's comfortable for you to make it work as part of your daily routine. The only other thing as far as a scoop when it comes to videoing on the virtual part is make sure you video and give yourself time. Don't do it at the last minute so that you have to video on a Saturday because your videos are due to be uploaded by a Sunday. Give yourself time so that you're not rushed and that you're actually enjoying the process and really thinking about what are you videoing, because it's really a nice reflective process. I know for my husband and I, as we were videoing, we were reflecting back even as we were submitting it, what we would like to change.
Okay, so I guess I was thinking more of advice and tips around specifically the virtual rating. So everything that everybody has said so far, absolutely. But also I would say definitely ask your coach any questions that you have. So they're getting to learn this process brand new, just like everybody else. And the positive is now they have a few centers, a few home centers under their belt, so they can kind of help you a little bit more with some of those questions that might come up. And also there was a few times that I would, email our person at Clayton that was in charge of our rating and just get clarification on things. And I was able to do that. And so it was kind of nice to be able to have that resource as well. I would say definitely coach for the interviews. Absolutely, ask your teachers the questions from the tools so that they get used to that interview process and kind of answering those types of questions and not being in the classroom doing it, because as someone who, does diaper changes a lot throughout the day, it's really hard to sit down and tell somebody step by step. It's kind of like that explaining how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with all the separate steps the right way. So now with that, I would say also something that we learned with the second rating that we're going through now is, I didn't know that this was going to be taken or not, but we filmed the teacher doing a diaper change with a baby doll. And they took that. They didn't have her re-describe it. And so that was super, super nice. Like I said, I didn't know if they were going to have her do that and then still ask her. But at least I was like, well, let's try it. And she didn't ask her about it. She said, no, we saw in the video, you're good to go. So I would definitely do that if you can. It's a lot easier to do the diaper change when you're doing it. Also, I would say record the videos in small segments using their guide to chunk out each of the videos. So we did different videos for indoor space, for furniture, routine care and play, etc. And I would begin each video saying the title from the guide. So don't be afraid to carry that little guide around with you and making sure that you're checking off all the items. So we had about an hour of video for each of the classrooms, but the raters all said they really enjoyed how we did our videos. So, and Clayton actually asked if they could use those videos as examples. So I definitely think that, you could do the videos however, but I found it really, really successful to be able to just chunk out the videos exactly how they were in their guide. So.
I just wanted to chime in really quick. We did that as well, as that we videotaped teacher changing with the doll as well, step by step. And our rater did ask, we had 2 different raters. One was a Spanish speaker, but they did still ask for us. So it probably just depends on the rater.
Thank you for that advice and tips for the group tonight. Holly, do you want to chime in a little bit about how it is for our side?
Sure. So just like Cherise mentioned, when she brought up the diaper changing, actually, a lot of us are going through our I3 and E3 certifications right now. So we definitely understand having to write down every single step and not actually changing a baby. It can be a task for sure, trying to remember each and every step. But I wanted to mention that for us as the QI coaches, working alongside each of our programs during this process, it truly has been a learning experience for us. At the same time, we've attended webinars with Clayton and Colorado Shines and gathered information to give out to each of our providers, but we're also, like I said, learning at the same time. So anything that we have questions about, we are actually in touch with Clayton and getting some of those answers so that we can provide feedback for our providers. So it has been a great learning experience, but we are learning right alongside you also.
Thank you, Holly, for that information. I think we're gonna go ahead and finish our webinar tonight with our last and 4th question. And the question is, how has reaching to a rating strengthened your program?
So at Busy Bee, I would say that it set some standards that we wouldn't have just internally come up with. I remember when Randy told us that we should have blocks on the playground, and I think I looked at her like, really? And we love the blocks that we have on our playground. The children play with them every day. So there are things that you just presume you're fine. You know, we've done this like this forever. But once you look at the rating and you start working towards meeting all of those standards, the coaching and the standards really improve your program so much. So I really see us as having a much stronger program, a program that will prepare children better, just even socially and emotionally, because there's so much that they learn from play. So thank you for the ways that you've been committed to this process and the ways that you've encouraged us to stay invested.
Thank you for that. Jennifer?
Yes, boy, I think there's no area of my program that has been untouched by, meaning that every aspect of my program is strengthened. My relationships with families, that's probably the biggest thing. We were a small, close-knit family childcare home anyway, but the involvement with the parents, stepping up and helping, understanding, learning the rating process too, just the sense of community amongst each other, a sense of pride in the space and what we're learning, and that communication piece just has just really expanded. But the environment, the learning environment, you know, really the children are benefiting the most out of this, as they should be. Yeah, it's just been a wonderful process. I feel more confident as a provider in the services I provide, in the environment that I teach. I feel like I'm adding more value to the children's lives and to the families' lives. And yeah, I've just grown so much as a personal provider. And, you know, again, kudos to Mary for helping me through that whole process. And I think part of that is just a willingness and openness to learn too. I don't think you can go through this process if you're not open and willing to learn. But yeah, it's been amazing.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention, we are going to post the link to Clayton's website. So if you're interested in looking at those resources, please take a minute to do that. And I think Reka will be putting that link in. There it is for everybody. Thank you, Reka. Okay, H&H.
I think what has strengthened in our program, like everything is strengthened. The bonds with the families, and they see the practices that we put in place, the assessments, the parent-teacher conferences, you know, have gotten the parents really on board, and kind of taken us out of that, for most of the parents, out of that sense that we're just babysitters. When they start seeing all this stuff being implemented, I think it's strengthened co-teachers relationships, our relationships with the teachers and administration, with our coaches. I mean, the whole thing, there's been tears through the process, but it's been a very, very, very strengthening and positive impactment on our center.
Yeah, I think that the entire process has made us well-rounded, high quality in every aspect, from our classrooms indoors and outdoors, to the way that we handle our food and our nutrition. We're always thinking outside the box on ways to improve and be creative through these past 7 years. We do, you know, parent-teacher conferences once a quarter. We do our Teaching Strategies Gold. We have our national curriculum, our creative curriculum. Families are setting education goals. This is all because of, you know, we're following the QRIS system. And not only is it just the Fickers tool for assessment, that also helped prompt us do a class observation about 8 years ago. And that's all about teacher-child interaction. And that's just totally amazing. I wouldn't think that in the year 2021, Kids Castle would actually have 4 special needs children. And we currently have a level 2 autistic child. Because we're high quality, because we've reached out and figured out where our high quality resources are, we're now able to take on special needs children with confidence, and we see the growth. We had one child, that's the level 2 autistic child. They wanted him to be in ABA therapy where he would just be with one teacher all day long. The grandparent said absolutely not. His team of neurologists at Children's Hospital said absolutely not. That child's staying at Kids Castle. He's getting ready to turn 3 years old. He's been with us for a year, and he's already now putting 2 words together. Amazing. That just doesn't happen overnight. Roll up your sleeves, you know, and just get your toes wet by just changing one area. Reach out to your coach and the resources that they have. You won't regret it. If you're on the fence, call me. I'll give you my top 10 reasons why to get in there and get more than a level 1 or 2 in the Colorado Shines, because I got to tell you, it makes a difference for you, for the children that you enroll, and for the families.
Thank you for that, Steph. Cherise?
Okay, so knowing where we came from and seeing where we are now, the proof is in the classroom. Originally, it seemed so daunting because there's so many different areas that you need to focus on and improve on. But now it's just our routine. It's just what we do every day. And once you get that in place and your teachers are used to it and you're used to it, it's not a big deal to do that family event every month. It's not a big deal to do parent-teacher conferences a few times a year or do assessments throughout the year. So we've all become better educators. The quality of care and education has really become the norm for us, and our families love all of the different aspects that we have in place. Also, we're 75% CCAP, so there is that funding aspect of it for us that makes a big difference. I mean, obviously, it's super nice to be able to pull my teachers in and give them a nice pay raise after all of that hard work that we just did. So There's definitely that aspect too that you should definitely consider, especially if you have CCAP, because it does raise how much we make per child per day on that CCAP rate for sure.
Thank you, Cherise. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and allow for any questions from the attendees. Shaylee, do we have any?
No, so I'll just kind of circle back to a previous question we had earlier. Many of you have already kind of answered it, but maybe we can address it again just to clarify. Is it okay to take different videos for different centers, like the math area or music areas, as you're doing your virtual rating?
Yeah, we did that. Oh, go ahead.
I would say I too just took short video. None of my videos were longer than probably 7-10 minutes the most. Just short videos to each section is a lot easier filming than a longer one. So that's what I did. And I also took pictures as well to capture everything. So like she said, the books, I did the picture of just the books, and I took out the musical instruments and just took a picture of that, so that when I was filming, I didn't have to take the time to open or each one and show, which kept the filming a little bit shorter.
That's exactly how we did it as well. It made it much easier than even the up and down movement of the camera, so we would just scan that section and then we would pull everything out and take pictures of what's in those buckets. And that's the main thing, make sure you get clear pictures so they can count what's in those buckets and just make the process easier.
We did it a little bit differently. So even though it made our videos a little bit longer, I pulled all of our stuff out and went through it piece by piece, just because I didn't want to miss anything. So even though I still took a picture of my block people and uploaded that, I still went through them and pointed out that we had people of different ages and different abilities and things like that in there, just to make sure that all of that was covered and none of it was missed. That might be my little bit of like anal retentiveness, but I wanted to make absolutely sure that we were showcasing our classrooms as they were to the best of our ability.
Awesome. And then we did have some questions about resources. And again, you can reach out to the Arapahoe County Council, and we will be happy to share those resources out with anyone. And that is all the questions we have so far.
I just want to point out, Shaylee, really quick, that those resources that we're talking about, those guides and things like that, they're also in a folder in your Google Drive when you go through to do all of your video uploading too. So it's all in one place with all the updated versions and everything. So there's that too.
Perfect. Thanks, Cherise.
Okay, now we have a few minutes for any of the panelists. If you missed mentioning anything or you wanted to share something that you thought about as we were going through the webinar.
Well, I typed a couple thoughts in the comments because they just occurred to me for some reason. But attend the Colorado Shines Zoom meetings that they have once a month. It was really helpful to be able to go through the indicators, to hear about other questions that other centers had. So I got a lot of value out of attending those. And then if you have a website, we have a website. So in the family partnership section of the rating, I think figuring out a way to highlight your website, show some screenshots, include some links. So that way, again, here we are, we're all virtual now. So it's that idea of how do you reach parents and how do you share information about your program? Let your rater know we have a website and just share it that way.
I think definitely go through this process. It'll make you a stronger center. It'll make you more educated. It's definitely a challenge, but face that challenge head on. Work through your goals. There's no obstacle too big or task too small. And I know, I mean, we're even talking about something as small as like labeling a toy, and it gets to like that fine of a thing that you're like, oh, I have to label these toys, but it makes such a huge difference in your daily life, in the quality of care, and take it day by day, and you will find that you're growing as a center, you're growing in the quality, and that the children really are benefiting from all of this hard work, and that you're also becoming, an early childhood educator. So it feels really nice, especially when you receive that rating at the end and you've worked so hard for it and you finally get that score and you're like, wow, like I really achieved this, and or like we achieved it. So go do it.
Thank you, Nicole.
I just wanted to say too, this is the first time that we've rated when Clayton Learning has housed the assessors. And I just want to say, for going from in-person rating to virtual, I thought they did a great job. I'm a very organized person. I'm very methodical. I want to know what all my steps are, and I never questioned. And when I did, one time I forgot my password and I locked myself out when I was uploading documents, something silly, and they answered my call right away. I never had to wait, and I was just really impressed because I think they took a lot of stress out of something that is already sometimes can be stressful. And on top of it, this was new because it was virtual. So again, kudos to Clayton Learning, because I think they did a really nice job, or they are doing a nice job.
Yes, I'd have to agree with that. Shaylee, are there any additional questions?
Nope. A few were just asking about where they could find the Clayton Zoom sessions, and I just referred them back to the Clayton Early Learning website.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I think we're going to be wrapping up. And Holly, do you have any updates for professional development?
I do. And actually, I just posted in the chat box our website. So please go and visit the ACECC website to register for any of our upcoming trainings. Also to view other resources and services that we offer through the council. I did want to let everyone know that coming up on Saturday, February 27th, from 9 to noon, we are having one of our Shining Bright sessions, and we actually co-host this session with the county. So they come and give CCAP updates, and we will then be focusing on creating safe and engaging outdoor learning environments. And actually, we will have our very own Shaylee Ellington presenting pieces of the ECHO outdoor play areas. So please go onto our website and register. Let us know if you have any questions. Anyone that is not currently working with or partnering with the council, please reach out. We would love to chat with you and move forward on the Colorado Shines journey.
And I've posted in the chat box the link to say that you attended so we can send you a certificate for attendance.
So at this time, I'd ask for all the attendees to please go ahead and fill out that doc in the link that Mary just posted. So to wrap up this webinar, it is our hope that you were able to gain some insight on the virtual rating process. And I would like to specifically thank our panelists this evening. They are providers in Arapahoe County, and want to thank you for your time and sharing your knowledge and all your experiences and challenges with everybody this evening. I don't think that us as coaches could do our job without you all. So just want to thank you so much for all that you do for your families and your children. And we look forward to seeing all of you. And thank you everybody for attending tonight. And I hope everybody stays warm and safe.
Randy, I'm sorry, I just have one other piece to add. I just put a link in the chat box to stay in touch with us for our newsletters. So please use that as well.
Yes, the newsletter has lots of good information. We also have our professional development PD calendar that is put out every quarter, and I think we just put our January calendar out, so please take a look at that as well. Thank you and have a good night.